I'm not good enough at art to be an artist. Most other people are better than me, and I'll never be as good as anyone that I've seen online. If you've ever said that, you're probably suffering from imposter syndrome. Before I continue, please hit that subscribe button and we'll talk about what imposter syndrome is, what types of imposter syndrome there are, and what you can do as an artist to live with it. So what is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is how you feel about your accomplishments and skills in relation to the perception of others. In other words, you feel that no matter what you've been able to do, it's not quite good enough. You've not earned it, and you don't deserve the success that you want or get. Imposter syndrome is a prick because it can actually get worse as you get better and more successful. Now, according to Dr. Valerie Young, there are 5 types of imposter syndrome. You might recognize yourself in some of these. First, we have the perfectionist. They demand that everything they do must be perfect, and because perfection doesn't really exist, they never meet their own standards. Next, we have the natural genius. You probably knew someone like this in school. They seem to be able to pick up new skills really easily. The problem here is that there is a limit to what you're naturally good at. And so the moment you begin to struggle with something, you suddenly begin to question whether you were good in the first place. Next, there is the rugged individual. Also known as the soloist, they believe they should do everything by themselves, and if they require help of any sort, it's not really a success. The expert is next, and they will not stop or feel validated unless they know everything there is to know about a subject. You're not an artist until you're a master. Finally, we have the superhero. They link their ability to succeed with the role they hold in life. This is the most broad definition, I think, because the superhero feels that they are a failure unless they are the best friend, spouse, employee, student, parent, etc. If you found that you recognize yourself in any of these, then welcome to the club. Come on in, have a satsuma. But it's all well and good to identify what imposter syndrome is, but how do you live with it? Here are some of the things that I've used that have helped me, and hopefully they can help you as well. Number 1, take a break. It's true that you need to draw a lot to become a good artist, never mind a great artist. There's a lot of advice online about how often you should draw and how many hours in a day you should draw, and although they're very well meaning, they can be quite misleading as well. The reality is there's not a set amount of hours that are going to guarantee you success, because some people it might take longer, some people maybe not, and it depends on what you're drawing. There's just too many variables for it to be a simple this is the answer. So use that as a guideline rather than a rule. Beyond listening to that advice, you need to listen to your own body and your own mind. If you feel that you're uncomfortable or in pain, you should stop. If you push through that pain, you may end up doing some serious damage, and then you can't draw at all anyway, so it makes no sense. And if you feel that you're too tired, too stressed, just feel like shit too much, then you're less likely to make something that's going to be good anyway because you're too distracted. When I say take a break, this can be 10 minutes. I would put a limit on it for 24 hours. If it's longer than 24 hours, then you could fall into the trap of going weeks without drawing, and then that will make things worse. This is happening often, where you're going weeks and weeks and weeks without drawing, then you'll need to readdress this yourself, because that's a separate issue. Number 2, draw something you find easy and or enjoyable. If self-doubt is creeping in because you're struggling with a new concept like perspective or gesture drawing or anything, then it can help to draw something that you know you can already do. Or if you feel that you can't do anything well, then do something that you know you enjoy. There's a reason that you want to become an artist, so go back to that original reason. For me, I like to draw figures, so that's usually what I'll draw for my warm-up for about half an hour or so, sometimes longer. I like to do it so motivation's really easy and it warms me up for the project that I'm working on. Most people gravitate to a particular thing they like to draw or a medium that they like to create with, so do that for a little while if you start to feel really Number 3, join a community. If there's a local art class in your area, join it. It's incredibly encouraging and uplifting to surround yourself with other artists, because 99.9% of other artists are really supportive of each other, because we all know this is hard. But if there isn't a local one, or you're not ready to socially mingle, which is understandable, then online is the next best thing. So there are sites dedicated to pretty much anything, but social media is good for this too. I don't use Facebook, but I know that there are Facebook groups for artists, so join them. I really like Reddit, and obviously there's YouTube as well, so talk to me in the comments below. And there are other sites as well which are more arts focused, like DeviantArt and ArtStation, and I'll link all of the ones that I've used in the description below. Before I move on to the next point, I do want to caveat the online thing. Don't go into online communities with the attitude of taking from them. Go to it with the attitude of giving to it, because you will be able to form relationships much better than that, and people will want to give you a bit more of their time if you give them some of yours. Don't be a dick, basically. Number 4, don't compare your behind the scenes with other people's highlight reels. I think Pastor Steve Furtick said this, but I'm not sure. I don't want to take credit for it, but I really like the saying. Anyway, as good as social media is for online communities and supporting each other, it can also be really intimidating. If you're on Instagram and you follow all these artists that you look up to and you see just amazing work after amazing work, it can be really easy to compare yourself to them, and that's when you're starting to feel just because they're posting amazing work doesn't mean that they didn't struggle, and it doesn't mean that they didn't feel how you feel now. They probably feel it themselves, because oftentimes they will have artists that they look up to as well and they feel exactly the same way. But the point is, don't compete with them, because you're not competing with them. There's only one person that you're competing with, and that is you. The reason that I'm doing this YouTube channel now and not a few years ago is exactly because of imposter syndrome. I felt that I didn't have a right to start a YouTube channel on art because there are loads of artists on YouTube who are way better than me. And that's why I didn't do it, because I felt, well, I can't because I'm not as good as them. But then I pushed that to one side and sort of jumped in. My goal is to be better than I was last month, and then the next month to be better than that, and so on and so on. I'm competing with me. Bear in mind, this isn't the same as inspiration. You can be inspired and should be inspired by people who are more advanced and are further on in their journey than you. Just don't compare yourself to them. I hope that helped clear up what imposter syndrome is and what sort of things that you can do. If there's anything that I've missed that has worked for you, then let me know in the comments, because we shouldn't be suffering with this shit alone. And I've been Brinkley, have fun drawing, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hey, did you know I have a website? It's the best site in the world with drawings and shit that I've done, as well as the blog that most of these videos are based on. There are also comics on there that you can read for free. I'm adding stuff to it all the time, so please check it out. Thanks!